OK, Labor MPs, why should they stick with Julia Gillard? What's the case to stay with the Prime Minister heading over the cliff?
Well, again, I hate speaking, I'm speaking a lot about history here, but if you look at the last 7 federal elections, at this part of the cycle, the side that was hopelessly behind in 4 of those cases won on election night. 4 out of the 7, they made a comeback. So 6 months in Australian politics is an eternity. They shouldn't panic looking at the last 7 results, how 4 times there was a big comeback, and they need to do 3 basic things. One is to stabilise the party and put these leadership issues behind them. The second is put a single-minded focus on economic issues, because Australia has the best economy in the world, and if people voted in normal circumstances on the macroeconomic situation, the government would be re-elected. And the third thing they should do is letterbox this book, because anyone who reads Andrew Robb's Black Dog Days could not possibly vote Liberal. I'd be letterboxing this book, especially chapter 16, where the man who wants to be the finance minister admits that he lied about his mental illness and the impact of his medication, and he lied to his own leader, Malcolm Turnbull, in a chapter called An Act of Betrayal. An act of treachery.
Interesting segue.
An act of treachery.
How low are you going to go, Mark? I mean, seriously. I thought you could be selling your own book. I mean, this is a disgraceful attack on a very decent person who had the guts to stand up and explain his own, challenge with mental illness or whatever he had.
Have you read the book, Peter?
I know Andrew Robb a hell of a lot better than his book. I've known him for years. He's a decent person, and why he has to put up with people like you beats me. Quite frankly, this is a disgraceful performance by you, Mark. Well below your usual, I'm sorry to say.
Well, you haven't read the book, and you haven't read the chapter called An Act of Treachery, where your mate admits to lying about the impact of his medication.
Give up on it, Mark.
Now, your side wants to talk about treachery and trust in politics.
Give up on it, Mark.
Here's a chapter called An Act of Treachery. But no one who read this, no one who reads this would possibly vote Liberal.
But the question, though, is that now I haven't read the book either, so... No, OK, so I go in dark to that point.
Why do I raise it now? Do you know
why do you raise it now?
Because nobody has read it. I've read dozens of people who are supposed to know something about Australian politics, who claim to be expert commentators, who haven't even read this thing, who haven't even gone near it and read the chapter on the Act of Treachery. And I suppose I've had a gutful of the Liberal Party running around about trust when they're trying to put forward a finance minister who couldn't even tell the truth. Couldn't even tell the truth about his mental illness.
His mental illness?
Sorry?
In the book, does he talk about a shame about his mental illness?
I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the lies that he's told.
But isn't
the
that
lies that he's told about the impact of his medication?
So I'm making the point. One minister.
Well, with 6 months to go, Labor's got a lot more ammo to fire. And if people in the media bothered to read these things, Peter Reithy's friend hasn't read it. You two haven't read it.
Well,
I've spoken to other journalists who haven't read it.
We're going to now start...
Well, haven't read it. People haven't read it, so there's no scrutiny on the other side. There's no scrutiny on the other side. And all I'm saying is when the scrutiny comes onto this sort of thing, maybe there'll be a change in voting intention.
Hang on. When was there a reading list for me to host this program? I wasn't aware of that I had to read every particular book.
Well, I can't believe that people who are serious about being commentators, the shadow finance minister puts out a book. And Peter Reith hasn't read it. I've spoken to other journalists who haven't read it. I've read it. And I'm telling you my opinion, that if you read this thing, you couldn't possibly vote Liberal.
All right, if you have read the book or not, otherwise, if you've got a view, #PM Live, email PM Live at Sky News.